You stand up, baby cries. You sit back down, baby stops. You stand up again, baby cries again. You exhale slowly, look at the ceiling, and do a quick mental calculation of how many times you've moved freely from one room to another today. The answer is somewhere between 0 and almost 0. Here's what nobody tells you. Your baby isn't being clingy. They're not manipulating you. They're not bad at self-soothing or behind on some developmental milestone. What's happening in those moments, in the exact second your baby locks eyes on you and starts to fuss the moment you shift your weight, is one of the most sophisticated neurological processes that developmental science has ever documented. And you, every time you sit back down, are accidentally doing exactly what their brain needs. The problem is you don't know why, and when you don't know why, you react on instinct. Some days patient, some days exhausted, some days quietly guilty for wanting 5 minutes alone in the bathroom. You're navigating in the dark, trying to manage a behavior instead of understand it. That changes right now. Because once you understand what's actually running underneath what looks like simple clinginess, the real developmental machinery, not the watered-down version, it stops being something to get through. It becomes something to pay attention to. Something that tells you in real time exactly where your child's brain is, what they need, and honestly, how well you're already doing without realizing it. Let's start with the one that reframes everything. That sounds cold. It isn't. Stick with me, because this is actually one of the most beautiful things developmental psychology has ever put into words. In 1969, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby published what would eventually become one of the most influential theories in the history of child development. He called it attachment theory. And at the center of that theory was a concept he named the secure base. Before Bowlby, the conventional thinking about babies clinging to caregivers was essentially, they need you, therefore they stay close. Simple as that. But Bowlby looked more carefully, not just at the clinging, but at the whole arc of behavior, and found something that completely reframed the picture. The healthiest, most securely attached babies weren't the ones pressed closest to their mothers. They were the ones who moved away most confidently. They used their caregiver as a base of operations, a fixed point to launch from, and a place to return to when something went wrong. Think about it this way. Imagine you're an astronaut on a spacewalk. The ship behind you isn't something you're constantly thinking about. You're focused on the work in front of you, floating freely, exploring the space around you. But the entire reason you can move that freely, the entire reason you're not frozen in place with fear, is that the tether exists. Cut the tether, and suddenly the spacewalk is all you can think about. Your baby's brain is running exactly that logic, except instead of a tether, it's you, and instead of outer space, it's the living room. Mary Ainsworth, who extended Bowlby's work through her landmark strange situation experiments in the 1970s, made this concrete in a way that's hard to argue with. She brought mother-child pairs into an unfamiliar room, observed what happened when the mother briefly left and then returned, and then followed those children for years afterward. The results surprised a lot of people. The children with the best long-term outcomes, emotionally, socially, academically, weren't the ones who'd clung hardest in the lab. They were the ones who'd explored most confidently, checked back most readily, and returned most easily when stressed. Clinging and exploring weren't opposites. They were two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. What this means in practice is worth sitting with. When your baby follows you everywhere, they are not demonstrating dependence. They are creating the conditions for independence. The orbit around you is what eventually allows them to move away from you, and the confidence they carry when they walk into school, make new friends, face something hard, that confidence gets built brick by brick. In every moment, you're reliably there when they look back. They're using you, and that's the best thing they could be doing. But using you in what specific way? Because the next part, about what your brain is actually doing when it watches your face, changes how you see yourself in this whole equation. Part 2. Your face is their map of the world. Think about the last time you were somewhere completely unfamiliar. A new city, a new building, a situation where you didn't speak the language and didn't know the rules. What did you do? You watched other people's faces. If everyone around you looked calm and relaxed, you relaxed. If someone suddenly tensed up, glanced toward a door with alarm, you tensed too before you even knew why. Your baby is doing that, with you, all day long. Researchers have a name for this behavior: social referencing. It's the act of looking to a caregiver's emotional response for information about how to interpret an ambiguous situation. Your baby crawls towards something new, the vacuum cleaner, the neighbor's dog, a stranger at the front door, and before they engage with it, they look up at your face. Relaxed, open expression, they move forward. Tense, worried expression, they pull back. You don't have to say a word. Your face is the entire dataset. This was demonstrated with unusual clarity in one of the classic experiments in developmental psychology, called the visual cliff. Researchers created a glass surface where one half looked like solid floor and the other half had a checkerboard pattern far below, creating the illusion of a steep drop. When infants between 8 and 14 months were placed at the edge of the cliff, they'd pause, hesitate, and look up at their mother on the other side. When mothers were instructed to show fearful expressions, almost no babies crossed. When mothers were instructed to show happy, encouraging expressions, the majority crossed. Same physical space, same baby. The only variable was one face. Now think about what your baby is doing every time they follow you from room to room in that light. They're not just maintaining physical proximity, they're maintaining access to their interpretive framework for the world. Every new room is new territory. Every new situation is uncharted, and they need their map reader close enough to consult. You are the GPS. You are the translator between them and a world they don't yet have the experience to decode alone. This carries a weight that's worth acknowledging clearly. The face you wear throughout your day, not the face you consciously perform, but the one that lives on your features when you're tired, when you're worried about money, when you're replaying an argument from earlier. That face is being read continuously, and it's shaping how your child understands whether the world is a safe place to be. Not to make you perform happiness you don't feel, but to understand what your presence is actually communicating, and to be intentional about it when you have the capacity. But your face is only part of the story. What happens in your baby's brain when they're not looking at your face, when they're watching your hands, your movements, the ordinary things you do, is where neuroscience found something that nobody predicted. Part 3. Your baby is filming everything you do. Italy, 1990s. A group of neuroscientists were studying the brains of macaque monkeys. Tedious, meticulous work. They'd implanted electrodes in a region of the brain associated with movement and were monitoring which cells fired when a monkey reached for food. Then, by accident, one of the researchers walked into the room and reached for food himself. And those electrodes, the ones that were only supposed to fire when the monkey moved, fired anyway. The monkey hadn't moved. It had only watched. The discovery took years to gain acceptance because it was so strange. Neurons that activated not just when you performed an action, but when you observed someone else performing it, as if the brain were running an internal simulation, rehearsing the movement without actually doing it. They called them mirror neurons. When researchers later applied this understanding to human infants, particularly in the first 3 years of life, what they found was unexpected even to them. The mirror neuron system in the infant brain is one of the most active, most rapidly developing neural systems of early childhood, and in practical terms, that means this. When your baby sits and watches you wash dishes, their brain isn't simply recording images, it's running a simulation. Every time you pick something up, their baby's brain fires as though they are picking it up. Every time you pull open a drawer, their brain is rehearsing that sequence of movement. Every time you carry something from one counter to another, their brain is building an understanding of how bodies navigate physical space, how objects have weight and purpose, how the world works. Your baby isn't doing nothing while they sit and watch you fold laundry. They're working. Developmental psychologist Andrew Meltzoff conducted a study whose results surprised even his colleagues. He showed 14-month-olds a person performing a specific action, leaning forward and touching their forehead to a box to turn on a light. Then he waited a full week, 7 days, no review, no reminder. Then he placed those same children in a room with the box, no instructions, no cues. The majority of them leaned forward and touched their forehead to the box. They hadn't just watched, they had stored it. 1 week later, they retrieved it and executed it. Now, think about every time your toddler trails after you into the kitchen while you cook dinner. They're not underfoot, they're in class. Their brain is shooting footage. The way you grip a spoon, the way you adjust seasoning by instinct, the way you handle the moment something spills without panicking. All of it is being encoded, filed, and will eventually be retrieved when their brain is ready to run those programs. You are not the person being followed. You are the curriculum. Proximity to you is, for your baby, the same thing as access to learning, and they follow you everywhere because everywhere you go, the lesson continues. But there's one more dimension to this following behavior that almost no parenting resource ever mentions. It has nothing to do with eyes or ears. It's more primitive than either of those, and once you understand it, you'll never look at the phrase, "a baby knows their mother," the same way again. Part 4. There's an invisible thread. Most of us think of following behavior in purely visual and motor terms. Baby sees you move, baby follows. Simple mechanics. But there's a significant component of what pulls your baby toward you, what makes them turn and look for you even when they can't see you, that has nothing to do with vision. Your smell. Human infants can identify their mother's scent within days of birth, not weeks, days. A study published in the journal Chemical Senses placed 2 breast pads side by side, one belonging to the mother, one to an unfamiliar woman, and observed which direction newborns turned their heads. The infants were 2 days old. The preference for the mother's scent was clear enough that it didn't require complicated statistical analysis to see. The olfactory system, the brain's smell processing architecture, is one of the most developmentally complete systems at birth, and it plays a role in attachment formation that almost nobody talks about when discussing why babies cling to their caregivers. Your smell is part of what makes your physical presence regulating. It's what signals your baby's nervous system at a biological level that predates language by millions of years. The safe person is nearby. It creates a pull that exists, even when your baby has wandered a few feet away, even when you've just left the room, even when they can no longer see or hear you. This is why babies often sleep more peacefully wrapped in a shirt you've recently worn. The scent carries a version of the safety signal, not as strong as your actual presence, but enough to bring the nervous system down a notch. Studies show lower cortisol levels in babies given a caregiver's worn clothing compared to babies without it. Not because of the fabric, because of the smell. When your baby follows you through the house, they're following a full sensory package: your voice, your movement, your face, and underneath it all, the olfactory thread that their brain recognized before it recognized anything else in the world. Proximity isn't one thing, it's an entire sensory experience, and following you is the way your baby keeps all of it in range at once. Now, you understand why they follow you, but here's the part that most parents find most useful in the day-to-day. The following behavior isn't constant, it fluctuates, and that fluctuation isn't random. Part 5. The following is measuring something. You've probably noticed it. Some days, your baby is glued to you, won't let you step 3 feet away without dissolving. Other days, or other moments within the same day, they'll wander off happily, poke around in the corner of the living room for 20 minutes, barely glancing back. Most parents assume this variation is mood-based, just one of those things, no pattern. But when researchers looked closely at the data, they found a pattern that's actually quite precise. The intensity of following behavior is a real-time readout of how secure your child feels in this moment. When they feel safe, regulated, and confident in your availability, they move further out. When something has shifted, a disruption to routine, an illness coming on, an unfamiliar environment, a period of accelerated brain development, they pull in close. The orbit tightens. Developmental psychologists call this the distance regulation system. Your baby is continuously, unconsciously calibrating how close they need to be to you based on their current assessment of 2 things: how safe the environment feels and how reliably available you are. The Minnesota Longitudinal Study, one of the largest long-term research projects on child development ever conducted, spanning more than 30 years, found that periods of intensified clinging and following in toddlers corresponded significantly with developmental leaps, periods when the brain is accelerating, forming millions of new connections, processing information at a rate that will never be matched again in that person's lifetime. Think about what it feels like to learn a genuinely new skill as an adult, not just picking up information, actually learning something that requires new neural pathways, playing an instrument for the first time, learning a new language, the first weeks of a demanding new job. Your brain is working at capacity, and during that period, you lean more heavily on your external supports. You call people more, you want familiar things close. You are not regressing, you are managing an unusually heavy cognitive load by drawing more heavily on the resources that help stabilize you. Your toddler is doing exactly that. Their brain is under a level of developmental load you and I will never experience again. and following you relentlessly during a leap isn't regression, it's intelligent resource allocation. When you understand this, clingy phases stop feeling like setbacks and start feeling like information. Your baby is communicating something specific. Right now, I need more of you. Not forever, just right now. And responding to that with presence rather than frustration, with availability rather than managed distance, is what allows the developmental leap to complete and the independence to return. You are not creating dependence by being there. You are creating the conditions under which dependence is no longer necessary. But what about when the following gets blocked, when you have to leave, when the gate goes up, when the door closes? What actually happens inside their brain in that moment? This is where the stakes of everything I've described become most visible. Part 6. What happens when they can't follow you? Let's be direct about this, because it's the part that gets softened or avoided in most conversations about infant attachment. When a baby is separated from their primary caregiver, when the following behavior is interrupted and they cannot regain proximity, the stress response system activates. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases, the nervous system shifts out of the calm, exploratory state where all the learning and development I've been describing takes place, and into an alert state oriented toward one objective: finding you. This is not a behavior problem, it is biology. The same evolutionary mechanism that kept human infants close to their caregivers and therefore safe from predators, from exposure, from the thousand dangers of early human life is running in your baby right now, unchanged, exactly as it was designed. The distress of separation is not irrational, it is the appropriate response of a nervous system correctly calibrated to understand that proximity to caregiver equals survival. Here is where it matters. Research from developmental neuroscience shows that when separation distress is handled responsibly, when you return, reconnect, and help your baby re-regulate, the cortisol spike resolves quickly and cleanly. The nervous system learns what it's been trying to learn. Separation is temporary. You come back. Distress is survivable. It ends with reunion. When separation distress is handled dismissively, when the baby's signals are ignored, when return is delayed without repair, when the response to their distress is frustration or silence, cortisol stays elevated longer. The nervous system doesn't get the corrective experience it needs, and over time, repeated unresolved separation distress shapes the stress response system in ways that carry forward, into anxiety, into difficulty with transitions, into a hyper-vigilant following behavior that never quite relaxes because it never quite learned that relaxing was safe. Think about the most reliable person you've ever known. Not the most present, just the most reliable. The friend who, when they say they'll be there, is there. The colleague who follows through on every single thing they say they'll do. You don't think about them constantly. You don't need to. The reliability itself creates a kind of ambient safety. The confidence that if you needed them, they'd be there, that makes everything else easier to navigate. That is what responsive returns are building in your baby's nervous system. The baby gate, the closed bathroom door, the "I'll be right back" you say before you step outside, and then you come back. Not once, not 10 times, but hundreds of times, consistently, reliably, until a pattern forms that your baby's brain can feel in its structure. Separation ends. They come back. I can trust that. That trust isn't built in a single dramatic moment. It accumulates across hundreds of ordinary ones, and it is the foundation of the independence that eventually replaces the following, not because your baby stopped needing you, but because they learned deeply enough to carry it without thinking that you're there when it matters, which means they don't need to follow you quite so urgently to confirm it. The part nobody tells you at the end. I want to bring you back to the kitchen. Early morning, you're making coffee or heating something up, or just trying to get a glass of water before the day fully starts. And your baby, up since who knows when, is sitting on the floor watching you, or hanging off your leg while you try to cook without creating a safety hazard. From the outside, this is a small, ordinary moment, depending on the day, either sweet or maddening, usually somewhere in between. But inside your baby's brain, in this moment, here is what is happening simultaneously. The distance regulation system is confirming that you're here, that you're available. The secure base is being verified. This is the foundation from which, in a few hours or a few weeks, your baby will venture further out than they've gone before. The social referencing system is reading your face, the expression you carry when you glance down at them, tired or rushed or distracted as you might be, is being logged as information about whether the world is safe to explore. The mirror neuron system is running. The way you reach for things, the way you move through the kitchen, the small purposeful actions that make up an ordinary morning, all of it is being encoded and stored, filed away for later. And underneath all of that, your scent, the specific familiar smell that your baby recognized before they recognized anything else, is holding their nervous system in a state regulated enough for all of that learning to happen at once. This is not a small moment. This is one of hundreds of moments through which your child is learning the most important thing any person ever learns. Not language, not motor skills, not social cues. The foundational thing, the thing everything else gets built on top of, is this. Is the world a place where the people I need are reliably there? Your baby is answering that question right now, in this kitchen, in this ordinary Tuesday morning, and the answer they arrive at, assembled across thousands of small moments like this one, across every reliable return, and every available glance, and every time you were there when they looked back, will shape how they walk into every relationship, every challenge, every uncertain moment for the rest of their life. You are answering that question right now, not with a parenting philosophy, not with a carefully chosen sleep method or a developmental toy, with the fact that you're there when they look up. People talk about the clingy phase like it's something to endure until it's over. Just get through it. It passes. And yes, it does pass. There will be a morning, you can't see it yet, but it's coming, when your child moves through the house without orbiting you, when they go from room to room on their own business, and your presence is something they carry inside rather than something they need to physically confirm every 3 minutes. That morning will feel like freedom. And you will also, if you're honest, miss this. But here's the thing I want you to hold on to. That future independence doesn't come despite these years of being followed everywhere. It comes because of them. The child who walks confidently into a room full of strangers, who tries things that are hard, who builds relationships without desperately clinging or compulsively pushing away, that child was built here, in these ordinary mornings, in every moment they looked back and found you still there. The following is the learning. You are the lesson, and the most important thing they're learning, more than anything else happening in that extraordinary brain of theirs, is whether the people they need can be trusted to stay. Be there. Let them follow. The independence comes. It always comes. But it comes faster, and it comes more solidly for the children who were followed by parents who understood what the following was actually for.